Hi all guys, welcome to my class. May I know how are you in comment section? Today class is about scapula. Uh, in the above picture you can see the scapula. See the above picture thoroughly. It was not able. We don't know the exact part. Anyone else know the parts of the scapula? Well and good, but you don't know. Don't worry. After the class, you will definitely identify the parts by seeing this picture. Okay, let's start our class. Scapula is a flat bone. It is also called a triangular bone. Scapula is a thin bone placed on the posterior, means back, and lateral, means away from the body. Okay, let's see the position of the scapula on the skeleton of your body by the above pictures. Okay, I think you have idea about position of scapula by seeing these slides. Now move on to borders of the scapula. There are three borders in the scapula. Let us know about the first border, lateral border. It is thick at the upper end. You can see in above slide. And the second one is superior border is thin and shorter. It is present near to the coracoid process. You can see in the above picture. And the third border is medial border is thin. It extends from the superior angle to the inferior angle. Let us know about angles of scapula. Basically scapula has three angles. One is inferior angle. The inferior angle is covered by muscle latissimus dorsi. See the point out angle on picture. Second one is lateral angle or glenoid angle, which bears the glenoid fossa. Fossa means an impression of bone on bone. You can see the position on the above picture. And the third one is superior angle is covered by muscle trapezius. Observe the position of it on above picture. Okay, let's move on to processes of scapula. First, there are three processes. First one is acromion process, which is superiorly present of the scapula. You can see observe the position of this acromion process. And second one is coracoid process, which is just medial and inferior to the acromion process of the scapula, as you seen in above. And the third one is spine of the scapula or spinous process. It is triangular plate of the bone. Based on the position of the spinatus process, spine is divided into two types. The first one is supraspinatus, as you see in the surface red marking on the scapula. And another one is infraspinatus fossa. Okay, now discuss about muscle origins of scapula. First of all, see the origins which started from the scapula on the scapula. First one is subscapularis, second one is supraspinatus, third one is infraspinatus, fourth one is deltoid, fifth one is long head of biceps, sixth one is long head of triceps. Seventh one is coracobranchialis, eighth one is teres minor, ninth one is teres major. You have to learn them thoroughly. We didn't learn them by reading or watching at first time. By the passing more revision and revision, we are to be perfect in muscle. The topic is very difficult to learn, but we have to revise it many times. We can get easily. So listen carefully. I am explaining the muscle, where it origin and where it insert means ended, along with the function and movements of the muscle. Now let's move on to first muscle, subscapularis. By seeing diagram, you can easily see the origin insertion of subscapularis. Origin is from subscapular fossa and insertion is to lesser tuberosity of humerus. And its function is to essential in shoulder movement and help to maintain glenohumeral joint stability. It is rotatory cuff muscle, helps in rotation. Move on to second one, supraspinatus. Origin of the supraspinatus is supraspinous fossa. We discussed it in last slides. Insertion is into the head of the humerus, and its function is to helps in resist the gravitational forces which act on the shoulder joint to pull from the weight of the upper limb to the downwards. Upper limbs are the hanging into the air, so it was helping that. Move on to third muscle, infraspinatus. Its origin is infraspinous fossa and insertion is head of the humerus. Its function is to allow that stabilization of the humeral head during the shoulder abduction. When we do abduction, it stabilizes the humeral head into the shoulder. Okay, that's the function of the infraspinatus. Let's move on to the next muscle. Fourth one is deltoid muscle. We can see the origin. There are three origins: anterior, posterior, and lateral from the acromial, lateral clavicle, and spine of the scapula. And it was bulk muscle. The bulk insertion is inserted into deltoid tuberosity. We can see the functions of it. It will help you to move your arms in different directions like extension, flexion, abduction, adduction. Deltoids are skeletal muscles. Okay, let's move on to next muscle, long head, biceps. Here it is. Origin is biceps of long head, and origin of biceps of short head, supraglenoid, tubercle, and coracoid process of scapula. Insertion is the radial tuberosity, which is into radius bone in forearm. Let's move on to the functions of it. Stabilize the humeral head in the glenoid cavity of scapula during powerful elbow flexion when and forearm supination by the main muscles of it. The sixth one is long head tricep brachii. It was three origins: origin of long head infraglenoid, origin of lateral head posterior humerus, origin of medial head posterior humerus. Insertion is into olecranon process. Olecranon process is the fossa that occur in the elbow joint at posterior side. When we palpate the posterior side of the elbow joint, we can feel the olecranon process. Let's move on the functions of the triceps brachii. In the adduction movement of arm, the tricep muscle acts to hold the head of the humerus in the glenoid cavity of scapula. The action helps in preventing of any displacement of humerus. It have movements like extension, adduction. Next, moving on the next muscle, coracobrachialis. So origin of it is coracoid process of scapula and insertion in anterior and medial shaft of a humerus, and its function is responsible for flexion, adduction movements at the glenohumeral joint located at shoulder joint. Move on to next muscle, teres minor. We can see the origin, lateral edge of the scapula, insertion in head of the humerus of teres minor, and come to the functions of it. As a rotatory cuff muscle, the teres minor stabilizes the ball and socket glenohumeral joint by helping the holding of a humeral head as a ball in the shallow glenoid cavity of scapula as a socket. It also helps in movements that are lateral rotation and medial rotation in arm at the shoulder joint. Move on to the next muscle, teres major. Now let's see the origin of teres major. Upper surface of the inferior angle of scapula, and insertion is medial lip of the bicipital groove, and its function is helps to movements like extension, adduction, and internal rotation of the humerus. Now move on to another segment, the muscle insert on the scapula which ends on the scapula. First one is trapezius, second one is serratus anterior, third one is pectoralis minor, fourth one is levator scapula, fifth one is rhomboid minor and rhomboid major. Let us know about the trapezius first. The first muscle is trapezius, origin, base of the occiput spinous process. Occiput means we have four lobes in brain. Occipital is the last lobe which attaches the spine. Occiput spinous processes means end of the occipital lobe. And trapezius is divided into upper trapezius, middle trapezius and lower trapezius. These are all inserted in the spine of the scapula acromion process and along with clavicle. And see its functions. The function of the trapezius is to stabilize and move the scapula. It was a bulk muscle that extends. Move on to next muscle, serratus anterior. Its origin upper or ninth rib, upper eighth or ninth rib, and insertion is of medial border of scapula. We discussed about the borders of scapula in last slides. And the serratus anterior is also known as boxer's muscles. Is largely responsible for the protraction of scapula, a movement that occurs when throwing a punch. Once do all the punch movement, you can feel the protraction, means the scapula moving forwards along with the hand. So it is called boxer's muscles because it is because boxers are always ready with their punches, right? Like that. Let us move on to pectorals minor. The origin of this muscle is third, fourth and fifth rib of the ribs, and insertion is coracoid process of scapula, and its function is acting on the shoulder, depression, adduction, protraction, internal rotation and downward rotation of the scapula. Depression means when we are tired, our shoulders are like depressed when we got fatigued. Next, move on to levator scapulae. It origin in transverse process of spine C1 to C4. It is like a cervical region, and insertion into superior angle. We discussed about superior angle also. So its function is simple, that elevate the scapulae. That's it. Next, move on to the muscle rhomboid minor and rhomboid major. Origin of rhomboid minor is a spinous process C7 and T1. Origin of rhomboidus major is spinous process T2 and T2 to T5. Insertion of rhomboid minor is a root of the spine of the scapula. Insertion of rhomboid major is vertebral border. And come to the functions of it. The muscle rhomboid minor and major on the back that connects the scapula with the vertebrae of the spinal column. The rhomboid muscles are help in retract, elevate and rotate the scapulae and the twisting movements of scapulae, and also protects the scapulae. So that's the matter about the insertion muscles on scapula. Now next move on to the ligaments of scapula. Okay, these are the main ligaments of the scapula. Coracoacromial means ligament between coracoid process and acromial process of the scapula, and coracohumeral means coracoid process of the scapula and head of the humerus. And glenohumeral ligament means glenoid cavity. We discussed about glenoid cavity of the scapula and head of the humerus or shaft of the end of the humerus. Ligament between these ligaments is nothing but joint that creates joint between bone and bone. Two bones or four bones, three bones or many bones. That's it about ligaments of scapula. Now moving on to the ossification of scapula. You can see the picture of ossification. Mainly scapula has one primary center and seven or more secondary centers. You can see the appearances of centers, secondary centers on scapula. You pause and read it thoroughly. And that's it for today. We have discussed a lot about scapula, the borders of scapula, angles of scapula, processes of scapula, the muscle origins on scapula, the muscle inserted in scapula, and ligaments of scapula, and finally ossification of scapula. Today enough with the class. See you on another next informative video. Bye. Tata.